I need someone. This is the room that the controller for the screen was stolen. I need someone to unlock the cabinet so I can actually switch to the screen source underneath it. So can someone come by and help with that? Okay, thanks. Okay, we're going to get started. We'll have the screen in a little bit when they get here. Okay. First of all, let me talk about the group numbers. Okay. Okay, so at the end of class, before I leave, those of you who have turned in your minutes, before you do that actually, does anybody not have a group? Everybody has a group? Just added two more. You guys okay with taking one more? Yeah. Well, your schedule work with theirs is the only problem. So they meet after class. Yeah. Yeah, right after this class? No. So would you be able to meet with them after this class? So those of you who have turned them in, I haven't actually entered the grades yet, but if you just class come up, look at your paper and see what you're going to do. I labeled, you can probably just snap a picture of it on your phone. I labeled also the letters for individuals on each sheet. The exception being, there was one group that said all attendees are present, so you have to go to the page with your actual seat. The letters. Right? At the end of class, they'll be up here, and I will take them with me. Okay. All right, so the next thing is we're going to not cover chapter 4 today. We're a little behind on the materials, so we'll just finish up chapter 3, and I want to talk about the project. So that's what we're going to work on today. We'll do chapter 4 starting on Tuesday. Sorry, the week is it? It's Thursday, so next Tuesday. Okay, so let's go through, and I'll explain one other thing. Let me find the right dates here. I actually wrote these dates down. So I'm going to go ahead and have you sign up for dates today a little bit later. So you'll see under the screen when I move it up in a little bit. There are 3 dates, and actually these are off by 1 day each. So this is the third, first wave. Fifth. It's the 5th. So that means this one is the 10th and the 12th. So there will be presentations on the 5th, the 10th, and the 12th of March. Now, I'm aware there was one person, I'm not sure if you're here today, that isn't going to be here because of an athletic event. So please sign up for one of the other dates that will work for you. We'll do 3 on the first and the last day, and we'll do 4 in the middle day. Okay. Now, we only have 10 groups in this class. I actually thought we had a lot more, but it looks like we only have 10 groups. So what that will mean is you'll have more time to do your actual presentation. I originally thought only 5 minutes, but with us only doing 3 minutes per class, that's probably going to be about 10 to 15-minute presentation. I'm just using this source. It's already showing on my computer that it's connected.
Yes.
It's just not showing up on the screen.
Okay.
Okay. So for the presentations, I've added information to the website. As soon as we're on the screen here, I will show you what that is. You'll be able to hear me better. Yeah, HDMI. So next week is when your concept paper, the proposal, is going to be due. It is due on the 22nd, so that's a week from yesterday, okay, by the end of class to iLearn. I set up the box and everything for it.
There's a lot of things I want to talk about today, also the exams. Yeah, well, I'll talk about the exam while we're waiting for those to come up. So both of the exams have been written, okay, already done. Uh, the midterm will be 50 questions, multiple choice and true and false, okay? Each one's worth 3 points, so 150 points for the midterm. So that's like 15% of your grade. The final is 150 points, but there's going to be 100 questions worth less points each, so you have a better chance with that one if because it is cumulative. The final obviously is cumulative. The midterm is going to be on the material up to the week that I sign the midterm, and you have, I think it's about 9 days to do it in. Okay, so you'll get the midterm, it'll unlock, you'll see it, you'll have 9 days to do it. So someone asked me if they could get an exam proctored, and there's no need. Okay, it's a take-home exam. You do it on iLearn, and you submit it on there. You'll get your score immediately, but you won't see the right answers until everybody's done and the due date passes. So you'll see what your score was, but you won't see any more details than that. It's open book and all that kind of stuff, as I mentioned. So that should be helpful. But you have to read the book because a lot of the problems, and they're all from the book, by the way, I didn't make up any of the questions, they're all from the book. A lot of them are scenario based. So based on what you learned in the book, here's a scenario that you can answer it, okay? You can open it up, take a look what's on there if you wish, and then go out and study that specific material if you want, okay, to make it a little easier. I will provide a little closer, I will provide some, not a lot, but a few practice questions to give you a taste of what that looks like. They won't be for any credit, but I'll post them in iLearn. You can take it and see how you do on it, but you won't get credit for that, okay? Just kind of be a way for you to practice those questions. The final exam will be the exact same way. Let's try this again. All right, next thing I want to talk about is attendance, okay? If I see a lot of empty chairs, I'll take attendance, okay? If I don't, then I won't take attendance, okay? So, and then everybody will just get credit for being here. So it's peer pressure. If you see people that aren't showing up, you know them, they're in your group, you might want to let them know that they should probably show up or it could affect everybody having to have attendance taken, okay? And we'll use that tool that we showed before. Okay, so this looks like that's good now. Okay, so we'll finish up the business canvas today, and then I'm going to go through the group project as well. So by the end of class, please, because we're going to work through this and some things. So by the end of class, sign up, okay? Look at your group paper, figure out what number you are, and then just sign up with your group number up there. Okay, so I'll leave the papers here until the end. Okay. All right, so the project. Let me go through that now. Oops. All right, so I have posted the project information now. So your pitch video. Some of you I recognize from 171, but how many here have taken 171 with me? All right, you know a lot of information about pitch videos, okay? You can leverage that information for your pitch video. But for this class, you definitely need to have a 3-minute video, no more than that, okay? So time it, figure out how you're gonna do it. That does the following. You're gonna pitch your business idea to potential investors. That's the purpose of the pitch. It's not for your customers or anything else, it's just for potential investors. So what is your business idea? Who are your customers? What's the total addressable market size? And then how much of that market do you realistically expect to capture? Okay. These things, by the way, are not things you're gonna be able to make up. In 171, I'd let you make it up. In this class, you actually need to go out and do market research and do some investigations, okay? If you come in and you say the addressable market is $50 billion and I'm gonna capture 50% of that, as an investor, I would laugh at you, okay? That is not a realistic expectation. You need to be looking at what's the TAM on an annual basis, because maybe it's growing, maybe it's in decline. I would assume that if you're in a technology business, it's a market that's growing, okay? But maybe not. What's your market share percentage over a 5-year period? You should be talking about that in your presentation. Okay? You should also be very specific about how much investment you're requesting. Okay? Think of it as you're looking for your seed round of funding. Okay? But what are you looking at for the longer term? Okay, so you should call out what you need for your seed round, and then what do you think you might need for the next round, your Series A? Okay. You also need to come up with your value proposition, which was the subject of the chapter, or at least a portion of the chapter. Okay. What is the value proposition that you offer to your customers, and how are you going to make money? Okay, which is where right here. Okay, so you're going to want to be thinking about that. Your best bet is to go ahead and fill out one of these, because then you'll get a lot of those answers. Okay. So you will have to do research. You'll have to use the book to help you out. You can look at the example in Appendix A, which is what you can then use for your business plan. But just making things up isn't going to be okay for this course, because the purpose is for you to be able to learn how to do this research, okay? Now, the video shouldn't be longer than 3 minutes. You should budget your time. One of the things I did see in 171 was some groups spent 95% of the time talking about the business itself, and that was it. And then they had no time to get through everything else, which meant the first person got to talk the entire time and the other people had to rush through the presentation. I suggest you time it. That's why I'm doing a video. It was hard doing it in the class because you couldn't budget your time very well, right? So now you get to redo, do takes, whatever you need to do with it, okay? You don't need to be fancy with video editing or anything like that. You could just go do recording on YouTube or Vimeo or whatever you want to use. If you cannot, for some reason, do a video in your group, you can do a live presentation, but you'll have to schedule an office hours appointment for that, okay? If you absolutely can't do a video. I prefer to video because then I can go back and really spend time giving a grade. Everybody needs to speak relatively equally. I'm not gonna be timing each person's time, but if the first person talks for 2.5 minutes and everybody else talks for 5 seconds, that wouldn't be okay, okay? Because I wouldn't be able to grade you very well. You should have good volume, so make sure you're speaking into the microphone. You can just use a phone, by the way. You can use a computer if you want to use a computer. I'll bring name tags in when we get a little bit further along, okay? You put your letter on it, okay? You'll announce your group number at the start of the video, and then every group member will have a letter. You don't have to say your letter, by the way, okay? I'll have the letters written down, but I'm not going to look at those when I'm grading. What I'm going to do is fill out the grading sheet with the letters and the group number, grade everybody. Then when I go to enter it, I'll go cross-reference to figure out who you were, okay? I think that's a fair way of doing the grading. That way there's no like any implied bias or anything like that, okay? And YouTube as an unlisted video, if you do it unlisted, as long as someone doesn't have the link, they can't access it, or they can't unless they have the link, okay? You could do it as public if you want. I don't know that you want to, but you can if you want to do it. But at the very least, it needs to be unlisted. If you do private, I won't be able to see it, okay? It's too complicated to try to get permission set up for me, and then if it takes too much effort, then you may not be able to get a grade for it. So make sure that it's either unlisted or public. And then if you use Vimeo, sort of the same thing, but I don't know what they call it because I never used Vimeo myself, okay? And then the other thing you need to do is send me the link in iLearn in either PDF or Word document. So whatever the link is, put it in a Word document or PDF, upload it to iLearn, because that's how I do the grading. I'll do the grading for each of you there. The presentation, let me go back to the video actually real quick. It's a group Dropbox. One person from your group will submit it. Okay? And then even though it's a group submission, each one of you, there's a way in iLearn that I get to give each one of you an individual grade based on the ORA rubric, okay? Just to be clear, I don't grade based on, if English is your second language, I don't care. I don't grade on that. That's not one of the factors. If you look at the rubric, that's not one of the things. What matters is, were you clear, okay? I don't care what your native language is. It doesn't matter to me. I don't consider English in any way, shape, or form, okay? Were you concise in speaking? Was your volume good? That's really where a lot of problems are, is when you speak very softly and then I can't hear you in the video. Can anybody hear me? Okay. If you do that, that's gonna be a problem, because that goes to the volume aspect of it. But the rubrics out there, and there's a whole bunch of things that I look for in the videos, okay? Now, you also have that presentation. I'm gonna change this to probably be about a roughly, given the time we have in this class, probably about a 15-minute video per class or per group. So that'll give you a lot more time. As long as you don't exceed it, I don't mark down if you run shorter than that, okay? If you run over 15 minutes, I'm just gonna cut you off and you miss out on those points for going over, okay? Now, somewhere I had, must be further up here. The business plan. Oh, right here, Appendix A. So, hopefully, if you don't have your book, I'll just kind of run through this. I can't really change the input source to the camera. In the book, there is a business model for this fake business in Appendix A. Okay? If you go through, you just follow this format. I'm not going to reproduce it because then I'd be violating copyright law. Okay, follow this format. It seems like a good format to me. Okay, there's no template, but you can go through the book and see how it roughly needs to look like. Okay, I don't really care about formatting. If you put like effort into things like graphics and branding, could get some extra credit points, okay? Because I don't have any other extra credit in the course. So that could be helpful to you. Actually, I do have one extra credit I mentioned on Slack. Take that back. Anybody willing to do transcription of the captions for the recording to make them better, because I know that the YouTube ones are not always 100% accurate. Looking for probably maybe 3 people or so to do that for me, and then that way if someone's absent, I still have someone to do it. So that I will offer extra credit for every lecture that you transcribe for me and provide me with the text file of your captions. Then I'll upload it to YouTube and I'll give extra credit. So if you're interested, see me, either walk with me to my next class or talk to me through email or Slack, okay? But this business model document should be good for you to do your business plan. Okay, so you can do branding on it if you want. I've seen them branded before with a whole color scheme. The companies come up with the color scheme for their brand. That shows me that you're really thinking about how you're going to market. But a lot of companies don't have the time for that. So they will just do something pretty plain like this. They don't have the resources. They rather focus on their product, and that's okay too. Okay, so there's not any core points associated with making it look beautiful, but if you do it, that's extra effort for extra credit. Okay? So you should have things like, what's your opportunity? Talk about your product, talk about your target market, your customer profile, okay? You'll talk about the market segmentation, so the total addressable market, which you do for the pitch video anyways, things like that. You'll talk about your value proposition, how you're different from your competitors, and then there's a lot of other things. Your go-to-market strategy, your revenue projections and financials. We are going to have a guest speaker come in and talk about pro forma statements for your financials. I'm still working out the exact date, but when they come in, they will talk about the best way to do a pro forma statement, because that's one of the things that a lot of people that in this area in particular, the startup folks just don't know how to do that, okay? So that will help you with your projections, okay? And then you'll do the business model canvas like we started in class last time, okay? And then some other things. So product detail. If you were in 171, we did a mock-up, okay? The limit of this mock-up is just one single screenshot of what, if you're doing an app or something, okay? Obviously, if you're doing something else, you would write up something about what you're planning to do, okay? You're not expected to have graphic skills in this course, okay? Just if you've got something here, you could do a product detail if you've got like a mock-up or something, okay? Now, what is important though is your timeline. So how are you going to build this product? Where are you going to be? When you get to an MVP state, what does that look like? MVP just meaning minimum viable product, okay? So the minimum product that a customer would be willing to purchase from you, okay? And then maybe year one, you're going to be in Riverside. And in year two, you're going to be California wide. And by year three, you're going to be nationwide. And year five, you're going to be global, okay? That type of timeline, okay? You can see some examples. Competitive landscape. This is where you're going to have to do research into who your actual competitors are. And that was one of the issues that we encountered in 171 was a lot of times, and I don't even necessarily know this, but the investor who came in said, well, that's not really your competitor for this particular space. And then they named off other people that are competitors. Yes. Yeah, so I've increased the time that you can have up to 15 minutes, yeah. I'm going to update the website later, yeah. I thought we had a lot more groups, but we actually had larger groups this time, so we were able to do it with 10 groups. So, all right. But you're going to have a competitive landscape which shows the different types of competitors. So the example in here has, for this particular company, things like pen and paper. A lot of processes start off as pen and paper. And to give you an example, I worked for a company that was in the activities and events space. Okay, so does anybody here run a marathon or a triathlon or who's done that before? Okay, you register for those events, right? And at the time that they founded this company, those events, you would mail in a registration with a check, and then you would get your little bib or whatever it's called in the mail, okay? Well, someone said, hey, well, why don't we make this electronic and put it on the internet? But it was a very fragmented market with all these little organizations doing their own registrations by paper. They saw an opportunity to change that market. So they built a piece of software to replace that process. In the process, a lot of other companies did the same thing. Even some of the big events like the triathlons, okay, Ironman, they went out and built their own platform and started selling it to other types of events, okay? So you have to look at what are the different types of competitors out there in the marketplace, okay? Now, the product wireframe does not require that you have graphic skills. I'm going to talk about that probably, why don't I talk about it today? Might as well, okay? So with wireframe, it's something as simple as a sketch of what you think your product might be, okay? If it's some sort of software, that's a lot easier. If you're not doing something related to software, then it's a little tougher. You're going to have to think about what your product might look like. So maybe it's a physical product, you'd sketch it out on a piece of paper, okay? A wireframe is very simple. You can sketch on a piece of paper. You can use wireframing software. I'll post some links for that, okay? Those of you who are in 171 already know some of those resources that you can use. Lucidchart's one of them. But you just sketch it on a piece of paper. A lot of times I've seen wireframes are literally a couple people having drinks in a bar and they sketch an idea on a napkin, okay? Obviously you won't be able to turn that in. So if you do it on a napkin, you need to transfer it to your paper, okay? But the product wireframe is really to give the potential investors something that they can get attached to your product with. Oh, I can visualize this. I can actually see this being a real thing. It's not some nebulous idea that's just in someone's head, okay? Then you also have in your document the financial assumptions in more detail. So at the beginning, in the plan itself, you'll have some very basic financial projections, but then you also have more detailed Excel spreadsheets and things like that in the appendix to the business plan document, okay? And you can, oops, this is a terrible binder. You can see lots of different examples in Appendix A here, okay? Whoever thought selling a textbook without binding was, I don't know what they were thinking. Okay. All right, so that's Appendix A, which is really what you need to do for the business plan. Okay, so let me show you an example of wireframe since we're talking about it anyways. So there's this website called Lucidchart. It's free for students. Okay. And one of the things that you can do is do a wireframe. So, there we go. Okay. And so let's just take a basic website. Okay. This is a basic website wireframe that someone just drew up. It's very simple. And hopefully it doesn't take long to create.